So, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, and I'm not a fan of Fantastic Beasts either, but I saw this film in the cinema anyway, because why not? Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. So Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore is a long title and is once again directed by David Yates and once again stars from the same cast from the first two Fantastic Beasts films as well as a couple of newcomers. And basically this film is a follow from Fantastic Beasts 2, aka Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. And basically once again in this film we follow Newt Scamander, once again played by Eddie Redmayne in this movie, and his friends and his group of unlikely heroes as he helped Dumbledore with his plan to defeat Grindelwald. And along the way, they face many complications. And at the same time though, underneath all that going on in the movie, there's this relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, which is quite key to the narrative of the film. And that's basically my version of the plot for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. At least that's what I got from it. There's a bit more to it than that, but that's my version of the plot. And just before I get into my thoughts and feelings on this film as a whole, I should reiterate, I am not a Harry Potter fan. I barely even remember much about the films, I've got to admit. I mean, I have seen the films just a very long time ago. And funny enough, I actually saw the last two in the cinema, you know, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. I actually saw both of them in the cinema, and the only thing I remember from Deathly Hallows Part 2 is Voldemort's death. And I remember that being done well, but I don't remember anything else from that movie. And as for Fantastic Beasts, I haven't liked the movie so far. The first one I think is fine, it's just not my sort of movie. I do think it has a couple of good moments, but it's just not really for me. And the funny thing is, I went to go watch the second Fantastic Beasts at the cinema when it came out 2019 now, something like that. And I remember coming out of the cinema after watching the second Fantastic Beasts movie, you know, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. By the way, I'm not a big fan of the titles, but yes, I remember coming out of the cinema after watching Fantastic Beasts 2 and going, what the hell was that? Honestly, I did not like Fantastic Beasts 2 at all. In fact, I thought it was absolutely terrible. I didn't have a clue what was going on throughout the entirety of that movie, and I'd watched the first one. But anyway, now we're on to Fantastic Beasts 3, aka Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. And by the way, I'm not a fan of these titles. I've said that before and I'll say it again. I'm not a fan of these titles. They seem a bit interchangeable, like The Crimes of Grindelwald, The Secrets of Dumbledore. There's just the long titles that don't need to be long. But anyway, that's just my opinion there. But on the film as a whole, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, as a non-Harry Potter fan, and as somebody who's not a fan of the first two Fantastic Beasts films, is actually quite good in my opinion. Honestly, I really liked this movie, and I found it fun to watch, which is kind of why I enjoyed it. You know, I'm not someone who understands all the Harry Potter references in these movies. I'm not somebody who understands all the, you know, wizarding lore and things like that, which you get in the Harry Potter movies, which obviously this film references. I'm not somebody who really understands that sort of stuff. But I was watching this movie, and even though I was confused on some parts, because obviously I don't remember the Harry Potter films that well, actually, when I was watching it, I was kind of enjoying myself. And I think that says a lot about the movie from someone who's not a fan of the Harry Potter films whatsoever. Honestly, I can't reiterate that enough. I am not a fan of the Harry Potter movies, but I kind of enjoyed this film. And I think the reason I enjoyed it is because it knew what it wanted to be. When I was watching this movie, it felt like it knew what it wanted to be. It felt like it knew that it wanted to be a Fantastic Beasts movie, because it balances all the Fantastic Beasts elements well, and also it balances all the wizarding elements well. You get a lot of both of those things, which I think Potter fans will really enjoy, and also I think people who are fans of perhaps the first two Fantastic Beasts films, and in particular the first Fantastic Beasts film, because I do know a lot of people who do like that first Fantastic Beasts film. You know, some of my family actually really loved that first movie, weren't a big fan of the second one, but loved that first movie, and I think this movie tries to recapture that magic that the first movie has, but actually I think it does it better. I honestly had so much fun in this movie, and I really didn't expect to. This is coming from someone who's not a fan of the first Fantastic Beasts film, is not a fan of the second one whatsoever. Honestly, I never want to watch that second Fantastic Beasts movie ever again, but this one I enjoyed watching in the cinema. I even sort of got some big problems, which I will get onto a bit later. You know, in the end, it felt like a Fantastic Beasts movie, and I think that's a big praise coming from someone like me, who's mainly just assessing the film for its filmmaking. You know, I wasn't so concerned about the lore and things like that, and all these certain, you know, like, references to Harry Potter in this movie. I didn't really care about that sort of stuff. I was going into this movie, you know, looking at the filmmaking, looking at the way that the world is created, and actually, for the most part, I do think it works, although I have some problems with the immersiveness of the movie, which I'll get onto a bit later on this video. But staying on with perks for a sec. Let's talk about the performances. Everyone's great in the movie. I mean, I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Eddie Redmayne, and I'm not the biggest fan of his character in these movies as well. I don't really like the character. I like the fact that he looked after all these creatures and beasts. I'm not a fan of the Newt Scamander character. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing the character's name correctly, must admit. But he's not bad in the movie. He's done the performance, you know, the film warrants. And at the same time, though, Dan Fogler, I think his name is Dan Fogler, who plays Jacob, does a great job once again. He's one of my favourite characters in these movies. I do actually think he was the best part of the first two, and he's great in this movie once again. Also, the one who plays Newt's brother is really good in the movie. And obviously, Jude returns as, you know, a young Albus Dumbledore in this movie, and he's great in there once again, giving more to do than he was in the second movie. And that's another reason I actually kind of like this movie, by the way, because it's more Dumbledore's movie. It's more Albus Dumbledore's movie than it is Newt's movie. And some people criticise that, but personally I kind of like that, because I'm not a big fan of the Newt Scamander character. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but actually, you know, Albus Dumbledore in this movie, I think Jude Law really plays him well, and I like the fact that it's more his movie. Honestly, literally from the outset, the first scene is with him and Grindlewald, and actually because, you know, Albus Dumbledore is in the first scene, you get a sense like he's more the main character of the movie, and personally, I preferred that. I preferred that over Newt being the main character, although Newt does still have a prominent role in this movie, and I actually liked him a bit more in this movie than I did in the previous two. Also at the same time, there's a couple of newcomers in the movie. Jessica Williams, who I don't really know, but she plays a new character in this movie. She plays a teacher who goes along with the adventure, and actually she's really good on screen. Honestly, every single moment she's on screen, she commands the attention of the spectator, and just in the best way possible. Honestly, she's got such a presence in this movie. And yeah, I really liked her character. I didn't expect to whatsoever, but I did. I remember seeing her character in the trailer thinking, I don't know if I'm going to get along with that character, because clearly she's just filling in for, you know, Catherine Waterston's character, because Catherine Waterston was meant to be in this movie. She's in the previous two Fantastic Beasts movies, but basically this movie was shot at the height of COVID, and I think Catherine Waterston got COVID really badly. So basically, they wrote her character out for the most part, and then Jessica Williams' character was in there. And actually, I think Jessica Williams did a great job with the role she was given. But my personal favourite performance in the movie was Mads Mikkelsen as the villain Grindlewald. Honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of Johnny Depp's performance as Grindlewald in the second Fantastic Beasts movie. I think Johnny Depp is an incredible actor, I really do, but I just wasn't the biggest fan of his performance as a villain in the Fantastic Beasts of Crimes of Grindelwald. And then here he gets replaced by Mads Mikkelsen, because we're all still going with Johnny Depp right now and behind the scenes and things like that. So Mads Mikkelsen has come in to play Grindelwald now in this movie, and he's fantastic. Honestly, I actually would have liked to see a bit more of him in this movie, but when he's on screen, he is fantastic. Honestly, I thought Mads Mikkelsen was so much better than Johnny Depp, and I think Johnny Depp's an incredible actor. I'm not dissing him in any way, but at the same time, though, Mads Mikkelsen is Grindelwald in this movie. Honestly, he's so brilliant, and you just believe that every single second he's on screen is this menacing and threatening villain, and just in the best way possible, and it's got me excited to see his villainous performance in the new Indiana Jones movie coming out next year. I don't know if people know, by the way, but Indiana Jones 5 is my most anticipated movie for next year, and Mads Mikkelsen is playing the villain in that movie, and the fact that he played such a good villain in this movie got me excited for his villain in the new Indiana Jones movie coming out next year. But yeah, Mads Mikkelsen was my favourite performance in this movie. I think everyone did a great job, even Eddie Redmayne, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but even he did a great job. But yeah, Mads Mikkelsen as Grindelwald, wow, I was impressed by him. I actually would have liked to know more of him, but I liked what I saw of him in this movie. And also, we like the Fantastic Beasts elements in the movie. There's a whole sequence to like scorpion-like creatures, which really works in my opinion. And also, this film has a lot of fun sequences as well. There's one sequence involving, you know, multiple suitcases, and if you see in the movie, you know what sequence I'm talking about there. But there's one sequence involving multiple suitcases, which I was really enjoying in the cinema. Like, it was towards the final act of the movie, and I really enjoyed that. And also, the end of the movie got me a bit choked up, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I felt a bit emotional at the end, and that's coming from someone who's not a fan of the previous two Fantastic Beasts movies, but I got to the end of this movie, and I was feeling a bit emotional. I was going, oh my god, I'm feeling emotional in this final scene in Fantastic Beasts 3, and I'm not even a fan of Fantastic Beasts 1 and 2, and I just like, wow. Okay, I didn't think I was going to feel emotion in a Fantastic Beasts movie ever, but the end of the movie did that for me. I actually really liked the end. And on to the topic of the end, by the way. I'm not going to get into detail here, in case people haven't seen the movie and they're watching the review, because I'm trying to keep the review spoiler-free. But the thing is, though, the end of the movie kind of rounds things off quite nicely. And I actually thought this was a final film in the Fantastic Beasts franchise. I was literally watching the end of the movie in the cinema thinking, is this the final Fantastic Beasts movie? Because it rounded everything off. And then I walked out of the cinema, went on Google and looked it up, and apparently there's 2 more Fantastic Beasts movies coming in the future. But you wouldn't believe that when you get to the end of this movie. And I was just like, oh, they rounded things off quite nicely, not to give too much away there. But then there's 2 more coming, so there's a bit of a setup, but not really anything. And I was like, oh, they rounded things off there, and there's more coming. But yeah, I'm not going to get into too much detail there, but yeah, I was a bit surprised by the ending. I mean, I really liked the end of the movie, I was just a bit surprised by the way it ended. That's all I'm going to say there. But anyway, yeah, the film is fun to watch, and that's ultimately why I liked it. But at the same time though, it does have some big problems. And I just think the biggest problem with the film for me personally was that it just wasn't that immersive. You know, one of the things I absolutely love about the Hobbit movies and Lord of the Rings movies is when you watch those movies, and yes, even the Hobbit movies, you are instantly immersed into the world of Middle-earth in those movies. And that's with the Howard Shore score, and also the amazing visuals, which make you feel like you're watching a different world, but just in the best way possible. But here, even so, the film does have some really good moments and tries to get its spectator, tries to get its audience immersed into the world of Fantastic Beasts and Secrets of Dumbledore. Sometimes it just doesn't always work. You know, I never really felt immersed into this world in the movie, and the film does try to immerse you, so it does try to, but for me personally, I wanted to be more immersed into the world of Fantastic Beasts and Secrets of Dumbledore, and I just wasn't, in my opinion. I just kind of sat there in some sequences feeling like, I want to be more immersed into what's going on, I want to be more immersed into the world, and I wasn't. And for some people, that won't be a big problem, but for someone like me, who is more interested in the filmmaking of this movie, in the way it deals with, you know, with fancy filmmaking. I wanted to be immersed into the world a bit more than I actually was, and even so, the film does have some really interesting visuals, which tried to get you immersed. It didn't always work for me. And also, that leads me into my other big problem with this movie. It's a prequel in the end, and so you know certain characters survive. It's a problem with so many prequels, but actually I've seen some prequels in the past, which I'll talk about a bit briefly, but I've seen some prequels in the past which actually work for me because they kind of work around this problem. And actually this movie tries to, but it doesn't always work in my opinion. And the big problem with this movie, in terms of being a prequel, is you know Albus Dumbledore and you know Grindelwald survive. And by the way, I don't actually remember Grindelwald in the Harry Potter movies, but I asked my brother after watching this movie, who is a Harry Potter fan, and I asked him, is Grindelwald in the Harry Potter movies? And apparently he is. So I might be wrong there, but I've heard from someone who is a Harry Potter fan that Grindlewald is in the Harry Potter movies. So that's as far as I know there. But yeah, basically, the problem with this movie is you know Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald survive. So at any moment that those 2 characters are fighting or in danger, you know they get out of the danger and you know neither of them win. It's the same problem with, say, the Star Wars prequels. Because when you get to Revenge of the Sith and the Star Wars prequels, you see all these fantastic duels between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Palpatine, and those duels are actually fantastic. But the thing is though, you know all those characters survive in those duels in some sort of way, in some sort of fashion, because they are all in the original Star Wars trilogy, which came out beforehand. So even though I quite like Revenge of the Sith, it's a problem with that movie, because you know in the big climactic sequences, you know that all the main characters survive there. And also, that same problem with The Hobbit as well, and I'm someone who loves all 3 Hobbit movies. I mean, I must admit, I don't love the theatrical cut of the 3rd Hobbit movie, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. I don't love the theatrical cut of that movie. I actually prefer the director's cut, and I think more people should watch the director's cut of the 3rd Hobbit movie, but that's neither here or there. But yeah, me personally, I love all 3 Hobbit movies. But even in the Hobbit movies, you know that Bilbo Baggins survives, you know that Gandalf survives, and you know that Legolas survives, and you know that other characters who are in those movies as well, like Galadriel and Elrond, you know those characters survive because they're in the Lord of the Rings films, and the Lord of the Rings films are set after the Hobbit movies, but they were made beforehand. And so you know those characters survive, and so you're watching the Hobbit films, you know Bilbo survives, you know Gandalf survives, and you know Legolas survives, and you know that all the characters in those movies survive. But actually, The Hobbit tries to work around that problem because it has like 13 other dwarves and a couple of other characters as well, which you only meet in those movies, which you don't know are going to survive or not. And actually, I think The Hobbit does a good job of that. And I do think Fantastic Beasts tries to do that same thing. I think it tries to do that thing of having other characters in there which were in the Harry Potter movies, like Newt and like Jacob and like Queen, and like many other characters in the movie, where basically you don't know if they survive. So it tries to put those characters in danger. Personally, for me, I never felt like they were in danger. And that's kind of the other big problem in the movie. It's all just a bit, I don't know, playful. None of it really feels like any of these characters are in actual danger. You just watch the movie going, okay, I understand what the movie's trying to do, but I never personally feel like these characters are in danger. I mean, there's so many fun sequences in the movie, I'm not saying that. There's a lot of fun sequences in the movie. But when those fun sequences are happening, I just never really felt the character in danger, and not to give too much away, but it turns out that they're not in the end. And it's just, I don't know, I just wanted to feel more peril for the characters of this movie. I just want to feel more danger for the characters, and I struggled to, especially in sequences between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And I just want to feel more danger in those two characters that I personally just couldn't feel. And so, yeah, that's kind of big problem in the movie. The fact that it's a prequel, and so you know certain characters survive, which are in this movie, and also the fact that it just was a bit playful still. I don't think the Fantastic Beasts movies have really got the tone right yet. You know, the first movie was quite playful, it was quite fun, and then the second movie was quite dark, and it was quite convoluted, it was quite messy, like, what is going on? And in this third movie, it kind of tries to balance that tone. You have the playfulness with all the creatures and all the beasts, and also you have the darks of all Grindlewald and Ezra Miller's character Credence, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but ultimately the film just feels a bit more playful than it really needs to be. And for me to actually really care about the next two Fantastic Beasts movies, and for me to actually get excited about those two movies, I want the stakes to be higher in those movies. And I don't know if they're ever going to be, because in the end, the Fantastic Beasts movies are prequels. And so, I think that's a big problem with them, just as a whole. But anyway, at the same time though, the film does rely a bit on fan service as well. There's a whole section of the movie, and this is in the trailer, it's not a spoiler because it was like marketed in this big fashion. There's this whole section of the movie where they go back to Hogwarts. And it honestly reminded me of Jurassic World, because in Jurassic World there's this whole section of the first Jurassic World movie where basically they go back to the original park from the first Jurassic Park. And it is quite literally like in that movie where filmmakers of Jurassic World are going, remember Jurassic Park? You know, remember how good that was? We're trying to recreate that magic here. And that's kind of what it feels like when you're watching Fantastic Beasts 3. When they go back to Hogwarts, it is kind of like they're saying to Harry Potter fans, remember how magical Harry Potter was for you guys? Well, look, we're trying to recreate that magic here. And sometimes it was a bit too much on the nose, especially when you got like the big orchestral John Williams music playing in the background. And I love John Williams, he's like my favourite composer of all time. I love him. But at the same time though, when you keep hearing, you know, the famous Harry Potter themes, you know, da 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 bum 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 bum, when you keep hearing them in the movie, you do kind of feel that this movie is on a bit too much of fan service. And that was kind of one of my problems, especially as I've said before, I'm not a Harry Potter fan. And also there's some shocking CGI in the movie. Honestly, some of the CGI is really bad, and like some of the background CGI was a bit noticeable and not in a good way whatsoever. Honestly, there's a couple of moments, especially in the final act of the movie, where characters will be standing on like ledges or something like that, and the background behind those characters was just so clearly CGI'd. And it was a bit noticeable, and not in a good way. And I know, you know, these films might not have the same budget as like a Star Wars movie, but at the same time though, this movie is funded by Warner Brothers. You think Warner Brothers would give a bit more money into the CGI and a bit more effort into the CGI of the movie? Apparently not. But anyway, yeah. Those are kind of my big problems with the movie. The fact that it didn't feel immersive for me, the fact that it's a prequel, the fact that it still feels a bit playful, and also the fact that the CGI is not great, and this movie does rely a bit too much on fan service, which didn't personally work for me. But at the same time though, one thing I almost got to mention which was really good about the movie was the fact that actually there's a gay relationship at the forefront of this movie between Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And actually, even though they're not in a relationship anymore, they're ex-lovers. And I actually kind of like that in the movie. I like the fact that it's just kind of treated in a normal fashion. There's no overhang of emotion there. It's just treated normally, like any other romantic relationship in any other movie. They just treat the relationship between Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald normally in this movie. And I really like that. They treat that romantic relationship as if it's just a normal romantic relationship. And actually, that sounds like quite a small thing, but it is such a big thing, especially for a big franchise movie like this, because bear in mind, you know, the Fantastic Beasts films are part of the Harry Potter world, they're part of the Wizarding world. And so the fact that a big franchise movie like this is focusing on a gay relationship so heavily, I think it says a lot about the movie. And you know, it's not the first big budget movie to do that. I mean, one of the ones I can think which comes to mind was Rocketman. But even Rocketman, that wasn't a big franchise movie. Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore, although it's not a Harry Potter movie, it is still set in that world, and it does still focus on one of the main characters from Harry Potter, Albus Dumbledore, as a gay character. And I think that's a significant and really good thing in this movie. And also, on the topic of relationships, I also really enjoyed the relationship between Jacob and Queenie in this movie. And I kind of feel that was a bit butchered up in the second Fantastic Beasts movie, but actually, they kind of bring it back here and add more heart to the movie in a really good way. And I personally really enjoyed that relationship in the first Fantastic Beasts movie. That's one of the things I actually kind of liked about the movie. Then it felt like I was going to butcher it up in the second Fantastic Beasts movie, but here, they do it better. And I really like that and adds more heart to the movie. And I think that's another reason it works really well. And the relationships in this movie sound like quite a small thing, but actually add a lot of heart into the relationship between Queenie and Jacob, and also the relationship between Albus Dumbledore and Grindlewald, which I really liked in this movie. And overall, this movie is fun, and that's why I enjoyed it. It's got a lot of fun elements in there. It's got a lot of creatures in there, a lot of beasts in there, which will make you smile as well. And I think for Harry Potter fans, there's a lot of enjoyment in there, which they'll find. I mean, I can't speak for them because I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I was watching this movie thinking, I bet Harry Potter fans will enjoy this. And actually, I watched the movie with my brother, who is a Harry Potter fan, and he was laughing along with it. So I think that says a lot about the movie, the fact that he's a Harry Potter fan, and he really enjoyed it. And also, one other thing I'm going to say is this movie's actually kind of got me contemplating whether I'm going to go back in the summer and revisit the Harry Potter movie. Because this summer I'm going to have a bit of free time, and I might go back and revisit, you know, all the Harry Potter movies, and maybe the Fantastic Beasts movies as well, although I do remember a lot of the first two Fantastic Beasts movies, so maybe just the Harry Potter movies. But yeah, this summer I might go back and, you know, I might go back and rewatch the Harry Potter movies, because I haven't seen them in such a long while. And I might do like my retrospective reviews on this channel. I might do like my reviews of those movies, because I have seen them. Like I remember watching Prison Azkaban about 3 times because he used to be on Channel 4 loads. But yeah, I will probably go back and rewatch those movies this summer. And actually this movie's kind of inspired me to do that. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm definitely doing that, but at the same time though, I don't know. This movie kind of felt like Harry Potter to me, and that's coming from someone who's not a Harry Potter fan, but I was watching this movie, it felt kind of like it existed in the Harry Potter world, which I feel that the other two Fantastic Beasts movies lacked, but this one had, and I really liked that about it. And that's one thing I almost got to mention, but I just mentioned there, which was good. But anyway, yes, overall I really enjoyed this movie, and it felt like a Fantastic Beasts movie. It balanced Fantastic Beasts elements well, it also balanced the wizarding elements well, and I do think that this movie is fun to watch, and that's ultimately why I enjoyed it. There's a lot of fun characters, a lot of fun performances, and at the same time though, Mads Mikkelsen is the greatest Grindlewald, and I do think that it is overall a really fun fantasy movie. I don't think it's anything particularly special. I don't think any of these Fantastic Beasts movies have been so far, but for me, for someone who is not a Harry Potter fan and is not a fan of the previous two Fantastic Beasts movies, I enjoyed this movie, and I came out of the cinema with a smile, and that's what I'm going to take from this movie overall. And so, all in all, I'm going to say the Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, I'm going to say that's a 7 out of 10. I think that's big praise coming from someone like me, who's just, like I said before, not a fan of the previous two Fantastic Beasts movies, and not a Harry Potter fan. I can't really say enough, I'm not a Harry Potter fan. So if you are a Harry Potter fan, and you're watching this review, please just, you know, take my opinion with a grain of salt, because, bear in mind, this all comes from someone who doesn't really understand the world that much, but actually kind of enjoyed watching this movie. I've got to admit, I enjoyed watching it, and I didn't expect to. I mean, I go into every movie in the cinema wanting to love it. I honestly do. But at the same time, though, I did have a thought in the back of my mind going, will I though? Will I though? Because it is a Fantastic Beasts movie, and it is set in the Harry Potter world, and I'm not a fan of the previous two Fantastic Beasts movies, and I don't remember much about Harry Potter, so will I actually enjoy this movie? And you know what? I did. I can't reiterate that. I had fun with this movie. Fun that I didn't have in the previous two Fantastic Beasts movies. And maybe I didn't have that fun in the first Fantastic Beasts movie because I didn't watch it in the cinema, but I did watch the second movie in the cinema, and it just felt like a big convoluted mess. I didn't have a clue what was going on, but actually in this movie, there were still a couple of moments which were confusing to me as a non-Harry Potter fan, but at the same time though, I did still understand why I checked into this movie, because yes, it's a bit drawn out, and yes, it's a bit too long. You know, the movie is 2 hours 22 minutes, and it doesn't need to be that long. It can probably go out like 20 minutes and still be the exact same movie and be a bit more tight. But I just like the fact that this movie was a bit more slower and a bit more, I don't know, just simple in its story. I enjoyed it more because it was a bit more slower and a bit more simple in its story. And by the way, I'm not saying the fact that it was slower is a bad thing. I'm actually saying it was a good thing in this movie. It actually kind of worked for me a bit better, the fact that it was just a bit more drawn out. Yes, it's a bit too long, but at the same time, though, I also kind of like the fact that it was drawn out. So that's kind of like a criticism, but also a compliment of the movie at the same time. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this movie, and now I'm going to take that with a smile. I'm going to take that away with me because I didn't enjoy the last two, but when I watched the movie in the cinema, and maybe I enjoyed it because I watched it in the cinema, but nevertheless, when I watched the movie in the cinema, I really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun sequences in there, and by no means, like I said, is it anything special. I don't think any of these Fantastic Beasts movies have been anything special yet, and I still don't think this one is particularly brilliant, but at the same time, though, it worked for me, and I enjoyed watching it. I'm going to take that with me, this movie. I enjoyed watching it, and you know what? It felt like a Fantastic Beasts movie, and just in the best way possible. And so, all in all, I'm going to say the Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, I'm going to say that it's a 7 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore? Please do comment down below, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please click down below and subscribe on this video. Look forward to many more, both film and TVs, come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now, bye!